Lambs, I think it was, I did a bunch of research on this a few years ago. Use, it said cattle and adult sheep do actually better on whole corn than cracked corn. And I don't remember if that was North Dakota or it was a university study somewhere. So I then switched to whole corn. Last year I did notice very like extra slope growth on the lambs with that whole corn. I just kept it going because I get whole corn either from friends that farm and I just pull up to the bin and they fill me up and I know what the wagon holds and pay for it and away we go. Or from the elevator right north of town. Whereas cracked corn, I drive 20 miles one way. So that was the biggest reason for the switch there is time, convenience. But this year we did go back to cracked corn and it was a dramatic difference in the lambs. The ewes, the north pin over there, that you guys can grab side by side, drive out in the lots if you want to look at the critters. The ewes get basically during, like right now where the rams are in there, they get free choice hay that we have changed to a processor. Got a processor this year, and the idea was to get a fence line bunk or fence line feeding set up and not have to get into the lot and not need gate watchers and all that. We have I designed those panels that are up on that north lot. We had sheep out just about every day, Jacob. So then we took them all down, took them to the welding shop, and he put a slide bar on there. That was my dad's idea. Still get out. So then we used to have the Katahdins up there and the Dorpers down south. Well, the Dorper is a bigger animal, as I said. They don't get out of those panels. So then we designed another panel that we don't yet have up. That was the original reason we got the processors, just to fence line feed. Not necessarily because of the gate or convenience or any of that. The biggest thing is waste, and that hay waste becomes a pile, and then you have that big pile there. That was the biggest reason. I feel like when I process that bale, they get what they can, and the rest is just there. It goes into the dirt, and it becomes organic matter. We don't have any issues with it so far. What they eat is, once the rams are in, they'll get a pound a head a day all the way through birth. And then once they birth, or the majority of them, because it's obviously not animal by animal, once the majority of them has a lamb on the ground, we'll up that to 2 pounds a day of corn. We run heavy on corn because, as I know in my real job, corn is cheap. If we had $7 corn, we probably wouldn't go that route, but corn is cheap, it's readily available, so that's what we do. After probably that last, when it's about weaning time, by the way, when they'll be on free choice grass hay all the time, other than lactation. Then they're on free choice alfalfa. And what we did last year, we actually saved on a lot of grass hay because I had a buddy of mine lose 2 pivots of pinto beans. And before insurance said they couldn't do it, they baled one whole pivot, and I bought all those bales. And I thought, well, I'll try it. Beautiful, beautiful results. I wish pinto beans was hay. They love it. They'll eat that before alfalfa. Nobody got sick. Nobody had any issues. We had great lamb crop. It worked fantastic. Unfortunately, that's pretty rare. So now we're back to grass hay. So that's kind of what we do here. It's pretty simple.
What time of the year was that when they baled those? Were there beans on them? Or?
Oh yeah. Lots. It was almost harvest.
Okay.
Yep. It was It would have been, it was very late August, so harvest is usually Labor Day.
So you put 2 pounds of corn with that then, or not?
No. The bean hay I just used in place of grass. So they would have had the bean hay and about half a pound of corn. I did pull the corn back because the beans got plenty of protein in it anyway. So I did pull the corn back for that. Now we're about out of bean hay, and that's what we processed yesterday in the lots. The Dorpers up north got a grass bale, and then the Katahdins closer to the house here got 2 of those bean bales. And there is a bean bale over there. I did leave one in case you guys want to look and see what it is. So yeah, that's kind of a scoop with that.
What's the sire of these like?
Okay, these here are interesting questions. The white face are pure polypay. The speckled face are polypay mom, Suffolk Ram. The all black face are Katahdin mom, Suffolk Ram. When I went to Lamb Summit last year, I got with Lori Johnson. She used to work for Pipestone and now works for a community college or something up there. She was a speaker at the deal. And I asked her, I said, I love polypays, or not, I don't mean that. I love Katahdins, and I don't like the Dorpers because of the hoof thing. And she goes, perfect, put Suffolk Rams on the Katahdins. That's a great way to lose 1/4 of your herd to enormous prolapses. We did have some nice lambs. The whole point is to get the wool growth in the hair lamb. You know, if you're not going to keep any of those weird things. And you can see like that one closest to us, it's the weirdest shit because they look woolly, but they kind of shed some of it, but not all of it. They're a disaster. I hope they taste good. So that's what those are. Everything else is hair.
What's your comment? I didn't understand your comment on prolapse. The lamb's prolapse?
They use prolapse at birth. Lamb's way too
Because the
big.
lambs are big.
Yep.
I think the other way around.
Yeah. And I asked her that, and she said, nope. Katahdin Ram. Or Suffolk Ram. And I thought,
That's just because of the size.
yeah. Yep. The lambs, there was lambs that, you know, after the fat got pulled, and I was like, holy shit, that one was just born and we could wean it tomorrow. So
But that's partly because of the ram. It's not because of the breed.
right.
It gets a lot of growth in the ram.
Yeah, I bought 3 Suffolk Rams the next day. She told me that, and oh, there's a Suffolk Ram. We'll take it.
So you did get a lot of multiple births to make this birth smaller?
No, I lost a big portion of that. Yeah.
With your full blood Katahdin, you lost multiple births.
Yeah, had a lot of big giant singles. So we will never do that again. And that's also why I bought those polypays, because then I had those Suffolk Rams, and I thought, oh, well, let's get in the wool business for, you know. So,
Probably they use.
yeah, I use Purina sheet mineral that I get here at Co-op. I have found, not everybody here knows who he is or knows him, Mike Wallace. I talk to Wallace a lot. And I tried several different minerals, and that was the one that he said is the best out of all the ones we've had. Of course, it's the most expensive because it's got that checkerboard on the bag. And we mix the feeder lambs, fat lambs, however you want to look at it, male lambs. We don't worry about mineral with them. The ewes, ewe lambs, all of them have free choice, and we mix it 50-50, salt and mineral.
I'm hearing more about them blue blocks. Do you feed any of the blue blocks? Does anybody here use
Yeah.
blue blocks?
I had to this year.
You did this
Yeah, because I had some goats, kid goats that's,
Had
lost
a
all
vitamin
their
B
hair.
deficiency.
Yeah, yeah, first time ever. I've
They
had to
lost
do
all their
that.
hair. They looked like they
Yeah.
had ringworm, and this was like
Their life, and they didn't have any of it. But that's the first time I've ever had to do that.
Oh, that's another thing. Shots, worming, all of that. We do CDG, we use Covexin 8. We do not give it to use. We switched that 2 years ago, 3 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago. We wait till they basically just judge it off of the size of the earliest born lambs. We round everybody up. Every lamb gets 3 cc's, unless they're still moist. And then we'll do it again. And then we give them their 5 cc's before we kick them into the feed. That's the only shots we give. Worming, first of all, the hair sheath or resistant to parasites is half malarkey. They will absolutely get worms. If you last year it was wet. I didn't have any trouble with any of the ewes. We did the rams 3 times. So it just, and everybody was in this 10-8. So it's it just depends. But we do very minimal, shots, worming, all that kind of stuff. And as I said, we don't do anything with tails. We don't do any castration, banding, none of that. So, Cydectin. Yep. I've used. I didn't want them. I know that was at Hay Springs. We talked a lot about worming. And yep, there is what's the white milky stuff? Safeguard. Yep. I've used Safeguard before. Didn't really notice any. It seemed to work. But I know at that meeting we had up there at Mirage Flats, that was one of the worst in that Wyoming study. So we buy that $500 gallon jug of Cydectin. Yeah, but it works. Man, it works good. These guys have been worse. That's the first time I've ever had to worm any critters on feed here. Naturally, they blamed it
ow.
because they're bullshit.
They blamed it because they're
But
part
we have a lot of associations. Right on.
Does Jim ever see grass?
No grass. This is it. 100% dry lawn. Nobody moves here. The only time they move is I live 5 miles west of town. We got a 5-acre there with 3 lots. So we'll flip back and forth from time to time. And it had to get there somewhere. If you would walk out in that lawn is not been cleaned yet, and we're on the 3rd round of critters in the finishing pen. So I think I don't know where else it could have come from.
I think you can have parasites in dry lawn because last summer we thought we'd dry lawn our roots. We had just as many worms as we got on the
Yeah.
pasture.
Why do you do fecal egg count?
Huh?
Do you do fecal egg count?
I never have yet
Why do you think you have a worm problem?
with the eyelid color thing. Yeah.
I want to go back to the whole corn. Why do you think hair feed can't eat whole corn? And wool feed?
They do.
You say they don't.
Oh,
do
as a
it.
lamb?
You say they don't do it well.
just from experience last year versus this year, now I know it's year to year and animal to animal, but dramatic difference.
I don't think there's any data to beat old shell corn and cracked corn together. Other than young lambs, I know young lambs.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at. After it's 1 month after weaning is when we start the corn. Yeah.
Didn't know.
Yeah, not these guys. These guys will eat whole corn all day until they die.
It's just those young.
On the same track.
Right, yeah, it just for the
I
little.
was thinking
Bird.
you thought these could do well on whole.
No, no. Once they hit, kind of in my brain, Ivan, I'm thinking once they hit 70 for sure, whole corn. I would still have them on crack corn, but I only bought so much and we ran out. And I said, well, when the crack corn's gone, they're gone. And then I thought, nope, they got to be here October 17th.
And where do you market? Do you sell them all individually, or do you go straight to a plan?
When I started raising sheep, I went straight to Greeley, thanks to Ivan. I didn't do that. And so I hauled a few loads down there, and then I was out of business for 11 months. And then when I got back, before I was out of business, I went to Centennial, and for the same lambs I had been selling, I got more at Centennial than at the plant. So I thought, why on earth?
That's where I've been going.
And especially with you having hair,
They top the market over wool every time.
absolutely.
Every time there.
Yep.
It's crazy. And I do castrate and chop the tails off. Or no, I'm sorry, I leave the tails on. I just castrate just because of my operation. And they still.
Don't castrate them, they'll do even better.
I know, but I can't
The
because I don't
ethnic
have
market
enough
wants it
pasture.
completely untouched. That's
I
why,
know.
even with those weirdos, they have tails, they have testicles.
Just don't have enough pins.
Yeah.
Mine are out pasture, and so I.
Yeah, I get it.
But I know I want to
Because
do everything.
the vice versa of that is, if there's 30 lambs or so in this pan, and there is some great 100-pounders in there, and there's some 40-pounders in there. But that's the way, and I got some little couple 50-pound ewe lambs over there. Well, I can't put them together because I don't castrate. So.
What weight were you taking to Greeley before when your first business? What weight were they?
What I knew back in 2012 as the number 120, 125, which nowadays is light. And that's that 120 at Greeley versus the 90 at Centennial. Plus, it's kind of like I have run numbers, and I'm not a mathematician, but I've run numbers numerous times. So everybody's like, "Oh my God, why don't you sell those at 75 or 80?" Well, we've done that, and we've done 95, 105. Yeah, and it's for, again, $7 corn era, selling the weenie, but with $3, $4 corn for what your feed costs. Feed's cheap right now, so that makes it extra easy to run them up there. And I have had the same guys that buy the 80s are the same guys that buy the 105s. And the difference in dollars for difference in feed is dramatic. So, I don't know.
I think that Centennial or the has buyers that prefer these kind of lambs.
Yep.
And I would say that as I said earlier, I've been, up until now, I've been selling it directly to either Mountain States or JBS before that. And I always thought I got from $5 to $10 more than I got. And I did take 13 one time to Centennial, and I've never been back because the buyers were just buying them to take them to JBS, and I didn't know why. let somebody else take them to JBS and make $10 plus I cost me $5 to sell them. So, I certainly appreciate that you've got buyers there at Centennial. Willing to take these kind of sheep.
Yeah, and I,
Prefer 'em.
yeah, exactly. And that's like she said, going to Centennial. If you have hair sheep and you're within 8 hours of Centennial, that is the only place I would go. That is after New Holland, Pennsylvania. That is usually the #1 market in the country. Because I look at that app, the ASI app, every week and check the markets. It's so.
You wanna have our friends talk?
Yeah. Fellas, take it away.
I'm John Kruger. I'm coming from Eastern Cape, South Africa. Here on that water. From 2014, we had 3,008 Dorper ewes in Trout Streaker. Went down to 1,500. Aaron wanted us to talk a little bit about the differences between the American sheep farmer and the South African. I think we're a little bit more specialized or a little bit more selective on the animals. For us, we try to sell the lamb right off after weaning. So that's getting your lamb on 80 pounds. So you don't put any money into feeding it up or finishing it. Now with the drought, it's almost all feed. So that kind of turns everything around. So that's where we get less and less sheep farmers in South Africa. As you guys know, Dorper is from South Africa. So the genetics there and stuff is a lot further ahead than America. Aaron doesn't like the Dorpers, but what we do back home, especially in the areas, it is rocky areas and stuff, so the roots and stuff isn't, but the roof growth isn't the problem there. I didn't really prepare for this. So ask questions or whatever.
You have whites or
We got a mix, but mainly just pure bait Dorpers.
no common blackheads?
Yep. Like they are really big stud door performers. Bred a couple of world champs the last few years. So we can talk a little bit more about the genetics and stuff.
Are you always on pasture?
Most of the time
What's your parasite problem?
okay, we in the area where I'm from, we have a big problem with hot water. So that means we have a vaccination schedule. We call it blocking, where you would start on a 7-day schedule. You work your sheep every 7 days until you get rid of your problem. And then move it up to 14, and then 21 days, and then you keep it up there until you get hit with hot water again. We dose every 3 months, just for like.
Does it ever freeze?
Not really.
It never breaks up.
Yeah.
It's not cold there, so.
So what do you use for one?
Okay, it's a lot of different products here, but mostly something that has some ivermectin.
Ivermectin.
Ivermectin in it, and the concentration on that will just differ on how severe the problem is.
Do you mass worm or do you everything?
What's your lambing percentage?
In 2014, when I was still part of the operation, we ran about 100%.
Your weaned lambs are harvested right after they're,
Sure. Yeah, we try to wean them on 80 pounds. That's
and
what
then
the
they're
market-
marketed
Yep, then they just get
for slaughter.
So they're kind of milk fat?
Yep.
Oh, that's on like 70 days?
Yep.
70 days.
What's your weaning rate?
Weaning rate, like the weaning percentage,
Yes.
we normally, a good year, you don't want to lose more than 4%.
How much?
4% loss.
No, what's the rate, percentage of weaning? For you, how many lambs do you get for you?
Okay, that's where we are different. We split our stuff up. So you will get your one lamb use. They'll run a simple operation. Then we have our twins. So we are more selected towards the twin use. So I can't really say what the difference is or what the percentage rate on that is, but I would say we have a 60% twin ewe rate on the farm right now.
So do you?
Say again.
Sorry. Do you ultrasound to know, and the singles go one way and multiples go the other?
I think Ivan's question is, you have 120% lamb crop, right?
Yep.
What percent actually get weaned and sold?
Okay, that's what I said. We take a 4% loss on everything.
Okay.
So you don't want to go down another 4%.
So you could just extrapolate that. That's pretty good for, I imagine they range lamb there too.
We got the black back cattle in the Chronicle.
Do you use guard dogs? Do they use guard dogs? Yeah, that's what
Are you lambing on the range or do you shed?
Yes, they're in the pastures with the sheep.
They lamb in pasture.
We lamb on our twin ewes, we lamb at the house. So we can keep them
Inside, yeah.
all the time.
We have a different program. We mainly just focus on stud breeding. So we breed breeding stock for the commercial farmers, mostly for the ram market. With this drought we have been experiencing for the last 7 years, we start going to more intensive farming. So we won't, the sheep, they won't lamb in pastures, so we'll bring them to smaller camps at the house, or around the house or whatever. They'll lamb, and then as soon as they lamb, we'll put them in small little pens, lambing pens, just for like 3 or 4 days, because the lambs are strong enough, and then they'll get tagged with the mother's number and the father's name, and all of that is put in record. We can go back generations and generations. For like if the buyer wants to know how it's bred. From there, the lambs with the ewes will go out in smaller patches around the house. The lambs will start getting creep feed on the pastures. Within 3 or 4 weeks after birth, we'll put what do you call them? It's rams.
It's like a mock ram.
Yeah.
Oh, Gomer. We call them Gomer.
Gomer rams with the ewes, with the markers on the chest.
Yep.
So as soon as the ewes will start getting on heat, we'll pull them out and breed them with selected rams that will match with that ewe. Or what we'll do artificial insemination. Do groups of that. And then, so at the time, on 60 days or 70 days, when we wean the lambs, the ewes will already be pregnant, and then the ewes will go out to the big pastures. And then from there on, as soon as they are 2 weeks or 3 weeks just before lamb, then we pull them out again. That's how this cycle continues. So it's just that, let's say, the period from the lamb until we wean them, it's more intensive, and after that it's just extensive, just on pasture, just with a mineral leak. And, that's the most efficient way for us.
How many ewes do you run?
We have 600 or 550 stud ewes. So just from the beginning, what we did, we'll select them for certain characteristics, and we only keep pedigree sheep. So with this, we inspect it.
So you lamb year round?
Yes.
We lamb 3 times in 2 years.
What's your conception rate of AI?
about 60%.
60%.
Yeah, 60 to 70, and then we always have a ram to top them up. So if they miss with the next cycle, there's a ram there. So they'll, as soon as when they get weaned, all of the ewes will be certified pregnant, scanned. So you won't miss it.
But do you vaginally inseminate those ewes or laparoscopically?
Laparoscopic
Okay.
and yeah,
The other end.
yeah, both ways, yeah.
Girl parts.
All right,
It
that,
depends if we use frozen semen or from a ram that is there. And some of the rams we use, like a ram we use now, is one of our old rams was the 2014 SA champion. He died about 2 years ago. We still have some of his semen, and if we see some of our young ewes that we know will match well with that ram, then we'll use some of that semen.
do you performance test, either one of you, weigh lambs and weaning, and is that in the registry then?
Yeah, so yeah, all of them have the LMI index. So with weaning, they get weighed, and then on 100 days, they get weighed again. And then, so we'll get that growth index. And a lot of farmers that come and buy from us, they want those.
Are those published in estimated breeding values then? EBVs?
Yeah.
And what about birth weights? Are those important in lambs or not so much?
We tend to use on our first time use, we'll use smaller rams just to keep them, get them into the cycle.
What brings you here?
We're, like I said, we're in a drought, so tough times. So yeah, we're here to
Now
work.
we know who to blame.
Yeah.
We're here to work. So,
Sounds like your drought's bring longer nerves.
yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
So your operation is both white and black locals?
No, we just white dorpers. Yeah. And
You're the one that had the world champion Dorper ram? Is that,
yeah, we had 2014, we had the world champion, and then 2016 as well was actually one of his offspring replaced him. He won the next SA championship. So that's the first time that happened in the Dorper history of South Africa.
so you're collecting those rams and using them?
Yeah, the most important aspect of your operation is actually your use. So we have concentrated a long time, many years, just on our use. So when we wean, what we do, we'll feed them for about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and all of them will get sheared, and then we'll class them.
You
So-
what?
Class them. So we'll sort them. Select them into, let's say, with the Dorper, we have different ratings, like selecting ratings. So from a 5 to a 2, or a 1 is hull, and
Okay,
3 is commercial, 4 is stud, 5 is your type 5. So that's your it's a top animal for showing and breeding and so on. So what we have done with our ewes over the years, we've just kept top 5 ewes. So all of our stud and commercial flock will get sold off, and we'll keep our top 5 ewes. And that's why we have not such a big operation, but it's high quality ewes. And so every lamb that we get is good quality. And yeah, we have every year we have our own production sale on the farm, and every second year we do go to the World Championships. So that's-
when your buyers are in your operation, either one of you, how much weight do you put on the performance? weaning weight, 100-day weight versus visual appraisal?
You try to get the best of both worlds. So obviously, they have to perform. They have to. They have to be able to perform extensively natural grazing. And the other thing is you also want to look at the characteristics of the body itself, of the looks of the animal. That is our market as well. So Jock is more on just for commercial, so he just wants to wait on the carcass and stuff like that. So for him, for farmers like him, the numbers are more important than the looks.
You said that you breed with some of your land.
Yeah.
What do you breed with?
We mix our own feed.
Yeah,
So it's just a mixture of corn and alfalfa, and then we'll have some other things also.
So you raise quite a bit of corn down there?
Not us ourselves, but there are big farmers. So there's
Any soybeans or anything down there?
yeah.
Soybeans, but corn is really expensive in South Africa,
Yeah.
so that's why we try not to feed anything.
But I'm just curious if you're using some foreign kind of a language, excuse me, feed that we never heard of.
We make our alfalfa and corn, and make pellets out of it. So then we cut out that waste. It's expensive to make it in the beginning, but after a while you start eating the benefits of it.
And you just dump in the bunk, or you have all the feed all the time?
So yeah, we sometimes we don't really feed a lot. So but when we do, we'll just have some guys that eat in the morning, sometimes twice a day, or we will use that as a feed. The lamb crop wasn't so good when
They're still on pasture while you're feeding this?
Yep.
So they have to run.
The good thing about the feed is as soon as you wean those lambs, they're already used to the feed. They don't have that weaning stress on them, and they just adapt that much quicker in the feed level they're going.
So do you feed like in feed bunks like he has here?
Yep.
Okay. Do you ever get run down by the sheep? You know,
Over here,
They hear that ranger and they're ready to roll, man.
The photographs I've seen of your sheep are very heavy muscle sheep, more so than you see here normally, or is that?
No, we breed for a longer body,
Okay,
so that normally on weaning day it puts a lot of more weight on the carcass itself.
okay.
And I don't know if but we tend to breed a little bit shorter legs as well.
you don't have to worry about snow drifts.
No.
What white Dorper versus black? What your preference is white? What's the difference between the two?
It's just how it was bred. It's a black Dorper. It consists out of a Dorset Dawn and a Persian. And then on the white Dorper, it's a Dorset Dawn, Percy, and Van Roy. It's also an ethnical breed there. And that's just to keep the white pigmentation more pure.
At the end of the day, it's just personal taste. It's the same. They have the same characteristics, and it's we just went with the white Dorper.
Red and black Angus.
Right.
Hereford.
But we like Jog says now, but they like them a bit shorter on the leg. We try to get them a bit higher.
Okay,
Still with the long body, broad rump, so a bit more meat on the carcass. And we also select for a smoother coat, haired coat, but not a hard coat, because you get the hard haired coat and then you get the soft smooth coat. Try to get the soft smooth coat with good fat distribution, because they tend to be, you get some that are tend to the dry side, and the pastures, they don't last. As soon as it gets dry, they don't have enough reserves to take the droughts.
When you said 3 weeks after weaning, what do you do to the ewes? What? Maybe I didn't understand that. 3 weeks after weaning, I thought you did something.
Yeah, well, we put what's that ram?
Harness?
Teaser ram.
Teaser
with
ram,
them.
okay.
Yeah, so as soon as they obviously they are on feed, so they don't lose condition in that after birth, that first month or what, they don't lose condition. We try to keep them in condition so that they can get into production as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And with the rams, stimulating them as soon as we identify that they are on heat, then they get bred with specific rams that will match with them. Or we'll have a group and do artificial insemination.
You have enough muscle on your show sheep, or a lot of muscle on your show sheep, I assume. Does that interfere with fertility?
No.
Do you have the same lambing percent as he does?
Yeah, and we select for that same as he does. And previously, Dorpers had a problem with lambing. Well, that was just one of the problems, and we really tried to select if there's ewes that with a ewe that lambs the first time, we'll give her a chance. If we need to help her, we'll help her. Second or third time, those ewes, if they have lambing problems, we'll start. We'll select them out, and even though we won't try to sell them off or whatever, just to get rid of that problem.
Do you ultrasound for pregnancy?
Yes.
And do they count fetuses, twins versus single?
They do, we don't. Yeah. Of course, we lamb them, bring them to the house and lamb them at the house. We have a different system. So, yeah.
So with your wild animals eating them, do you bring them to the house every night?
We do. We corral them every night.
Yeah, no, we run them extensively, so we'll have pastures between 200 300 acres. So as soon as they are weaned and pregnant, they run extensively just on a mineral lick on the grazing until they.
So do you send a herder out with dogs with them?
No, we just have the dogs with them. And the dogs will go between different herds. They'll travel around. But like if we get new dogs like puppies, from a very young age, the puppy will be put in the pastures with the sheep. So that they every day when we go check waters and put out lick, the dogs will also get fed in the pastures. So they never come home, or so they work well against the jackals and jackals.
Do you have herding dogs as well? Border collie?
Kelpies.
Kelpies. Do you have any here? You don't have herding dogs here?
I have him and Honda.
You're missing something then.
Yeah, I've always
tried.
wanted a dog, but I feel in our operation, it's a pet. I don't have any real use for it with just what we
You
have.
guys miss herding dogs here?
I've got a blue healer now that I usually get.
Blue heeler's not a herd. Cowbells.
We tried it, but changes have.
Yeah.
We tried it, but it didn't work out for us.
I tried really hard.
We have Burgos, and then Kalahari Reds and Savannahs. I don't know if you know about them. The Kalahari Red is like the same as the Burgos, just totally brown or red. Or red. Yeah, all red. So all of that gets swarmed together. The cattle as well. So what we'll normally do, like in a new pasture, we'll put in the cattle first to raise down the Yeah, because we have it's mixed grazing of shrubs and bushes and so on, and grassland. So yeah, the goats are really good for the shrubs and the bushes. And yeah, and we do rotate the grazing. So
With all those different species, then you like doing chores every day, right?
yeah, they keep us busy. Yeah.
That's the best way to get out of it.
So do you sell registered seed stock in the goats, or is it just a commercial?
Yeah, on our yearly production sale, we have registered goats, the bull goats, and the Savannah Calari Reds, and then the white dorpers. Yeah.
So where do you get your other lambs to market? Is there a sale place or do people come out of your house and buy?
The market is pretty big. Sheep is a big deal in South Africa. So there's big markets for it. So you have sales agents coming out to you constantly, and you just sell to the guy that offers you the most.
Some of the goats.
Really?
Goats are basically the same. Yeah.
So, like your boar goats, you think they're bigger in South Africa than they are here? I mean, the pictures I've seen, it seems like they pack a lot more.
Yeah.
to it.
I would think so. Look, it's also developed in South Africa, and some of those farmers, one of the first that started developing the breed, are still in the business, and they, like Lucas Berger is one of our neighbors, and he's one of the front runners in the bull goat industry in South Africa, and it's exceptional goats that he is breeding.
It seems like the ones I've seen too are the old wrinkled neck,
Yeah.
type bucks.
Yeah.
Here they got them all cleaned up nice.
That's and does
What
what
are-
you know.
What's the consumers? How much lamb that consumers or goats, is lamb and goat about the same as far as the consumers?
So sheep is a lot more popular. The goats goes more to the Indian market. Like,
How much lamb does South Africa, your country, consume of lamb per capita per year?
say for my family, we'll butcher one every second month.
You what?
Every other month.
Every other
Yeah,
month.
butcher.
Everyone.
That's the norm in South Africa.
Can you find it readily in grocery stores,
Yeah.
lamb?
Like we'll eat more lamb than beef, Dago.
You do, but what about the average
Lot
consumer
of- most of
in the
us.
country?
That's,
They'll eat more lamb than beef.
What's the price comparison between lamb and beef?
beef is still more expensive.
No,
Okay, oh no, no,
Not
no,
really.
no, lamb is
lamb is
expensive now.
expensive.
Is the beef grass fed as well, or is it? it's
Most parts,
for the most
there,
part?
we do have big feedlots and stuff there as well, but,
I was thinking you did.
but people like grass-fed stuff more. Especially with how the market and stuff is going now, where people tend to go to more leaner meat.
It sounds like a lot of lamb for consumers, for us here. Of course, you can't buy it. Can't buy US lamb in town. That's great. I wish we could figure out how to get our consumers.
I think the biggest problem in America is they see sheep as pets.
It's what?
As
As pets.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
They don't
cute.
really- And that's the when I talk to people, that's what comes to most.
You know, to piggyback on that, I've tried to get people, when I talk about, you should really try this lamb. Oh, you can't eat a lamb. They think of
know,
that
yeah.
little 10-pound lamb.
Bambi.
And I wish it had it's because of the name. You
Oh,
don't
the
call,
killer lamb. Come eat this killer lamb.
well, yeah, but we don't eat calf and chick and piglet,
No.
That's true. Yeah.
that it's mental.
We don't want them to eat mutton either.
Exactly.
No.
Right.
Well, I think
That's the
that's the
other
other
side
side
of
of
it.
it.
People
People
have
have
had
had
that
that experience.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think you're right.
Anybody else got any other questions or anything?
Yeah, they-
Oh, and if you want, there's a
They
couple
use
side by
your-
sides. You can go out in the lot and look at the views if you want. The lanes are all right here, so.
What other breeds do you have down there that are pretty common?
Okay, I went to college and specialized in merinos, but especially in the mountain merino, they call it the SA mountain merino. So that's the ones you will normally see on YouTube that Mesa Pacal, whatever they get into fights and
Oh,
they saw the Dormers, Percy's, quite big there. Royce, Latel, Ghana.
Any Sams down there? It's US development.
Anything you think that we should know that we didn't ask you about? Any information you think we're lacking? Or tidbit of information?
Don't name your sheep.
Don't name your sheep.
Yeah, I wanna know what is, you guys as sheep farmers, what is your goal as a sheep farmer? Like, what industry creating to?
I think we're way behind on performance testing.
yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's difficult to find sheep with production records on them. In this area, you have to drive a lot of miles, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to start utilizing that more operation. And if I don't have an answer, I guess we'll get an answer this afternoon or sometime today on direct marketing, but if we don't improve lamb consumption in the US, well, I don't think we're gonna struggle with an industry. And I don't know what the future of the commercial livestock sheep industry is, quite frankly. I'm worried about it. Most everybody here, sheep is not their major enterprise. Have something else to support the sheep industry, with their enterprise.
Do you guys have EPDs and stuff on sheep then? Or, expected progeny differences like birth weights and weaning weights, what to predict with it?
Yep.
I hear a lot more about the
And I've got to.
of the product. All our chickens are the same size we send to market. All our pigs look alike. Our cattle are starting to look all alike. Our sheep are all over the place. We got little ones, we got big ones, we got hair ones, we got wool ones, we got everything. And so the housewife can't just walk in knowing that everything, just pick up a package, they're all the same.
But I've bought some sheep from New Zealand, from lamb from New Zealand. I was like, probably But I think it can get to be a big market, like elk meat.
He's the healthier red meat.
Yeah, it's a lot healthier. You can promote it the same like the way they promote health into the fitness, whatever. It's a more leaner, healthier meat. Then the market can grow. But from the start, when I started working in the US, it was more sheep as pets. It wasn't really a big market on just the meat itself.
Do you think the meat tastes different by breed in the sheep? You think
South Africa, there is a difference in taste and wool. Very different. Because a hair sheep is made for.
Well, I think it goes back to the old adage, corn-fed or grain-fed lamb versus pasture-fed. That grain-fed lamb, people in the market are saying it tastes a lot better. People say, oh, you're crap.
just didn't know. Amen to that.
Randy isn't recording.
He's recording.
Yeah,
I was just
I was hoping it would.
more non-members.
Like,
Board party.
Gotta put this up.
What do you think about fifty?
I would love that, but what can I do there that is safe? That's what Jared Project's always trying to get you to buy is that stuff right there. Right. What I have done in years past is I've done 50/50 crack corn pellets. Just to spread, that way they're still on the pellet, but spread the cost out a little bit. And then I decided, for doing that, I'll just, if it takes a little bit longer, it takes a little bit. It's $3 corn. It's not $400 ton pellets.
I'm using a
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like that was only 440.
Right.
Yeah, because when I was out here, we were out here, we were
I did that one too. I did the crack corn, that pellet. Yeah, pellets. Just boom, done, ready to go. And then I looked at that. It worked great, but it didn't work great in my wallet. Oh, and that's why we've gone to grass hay as much as possible and corn. I'd rather buy $50 bale grass hay and pour $3 corn to it than. How much? What do you mean that?
Because they're dwarfers and they're tough. I don't eat lamb. I don't really eat. And I lamb
They are on that weight.
last year about I have
You want to go back
Yeah, we can.
and we'll plug this thing in. I've got it on pause. I'm just gonna leave it on pause till we get it there. And then. Stuff. What I may do is I might just can I set this in the back here? Let me see if I can, and I'll see the computer on. You think of having a battery? No, without electricity. Yeah, we can put it back there. I could. It's left it on because I. Not used this before, so this is new for me. But it seems to be working now. You guys see it and you laugh at us all. Okay. That will get us, and I can set it up in there. We can tape all their talks in there. I got these taped pretty good after I got it going.
Those guys would be interested for us goats.
Yeah, they would, because they know about goats too, don't they? And his comment, I was listening to some more comments about the
She's gonna
savannas.
follow us. About what, Randy?
Oh, the savannas and the boar goats. And then they have this other breed they called, but he said they're kind of tough. But he said the boar goats have been raised for good eating. And that's how they were developed, he said. So
I think America, I think America, like he said, they focus on the show,
yeah.
how pretty they are, instead of what
But
they're
some of
actually.
them are looking kind of ugly, I think.
Okay, it's okay, it's okay. You're good, you're good. I got it down. It's on top. You heard from cows? Kind of fun to see how it's changed over time.
We run a red Angus bull with our heifers. First calf heifers.
That's a good cross.
And then my uncle has 10 or so red Angus.
Don't take a lot of maintenance.
No, they're low maintenance cow. And if you can breed them to something that's got some muscle, you'll be okay.
Well, they're good, like, out in the big It was 125 and
Reckon most know where she's at.
have only goats,
Right,
you know, instead of ASI.
yeah,
They have a lot of perks.
good.
I mean,
So in other words, you just, so the goat people, you just send to them instead of the
right,
ASI.
just the ASI.
Idea. Everything fit in here, I hope we did. Yeah, we did. It's coming. Take it home.
Okay, I can carry.
Coat, I'll just stick it on.
Okay.
Fast.
Randy, I can't stay, but I'll catch up with you. Maybe I'll give you a call this week.
Okay, that'd be
Is that
fine.
all right?
Yep,
Okay,
that'll be
yeah,
fine, yeah.
Gotta get going.
Okay, I understand. Thanks for coming, yeah. Okay. Maybe I can come back. Yeah. Yes.
100%.
See, I had mine worked on my left one. Now my right one's bothering me. So I don't know. We're in. God, I think.
This is where you're at?
Yeah.
So I was bad this year.
Are you here? Well.
42 days.
This friend of mine, that's what back when we were on the I think
Yeah, you know, I have this. So, I just think it's fun. And I do love, and I do have. Like popcorn, the eye rolls,
Okay, we're ready.
And then I use that.
Okay. See if I can.
So yeah, I was not, I was breaking it up, I was doing my. That way I
So it. I have it on recording. I have it on recording, so we're ready to go whenever you are. So are you gonna talk here?
Yeah.
I don't know what you want me to say, so I don't know. Here is the film. A little bit of light.
So I have our recording on now. I can pause it again, but it's recording. And so what you can do is this will take you down to the next slide. Because I got this thing in my hand.
One of the.
It should show. Once you get through it.
Okay. I think everything,
Is it? Is everybody back?
Some kind of sleeve, sometimes not. And then it will kind of revert up if you have a real land.
They're not cycling again.
It's not quite the same.
I don't know, right?
No.
So you know, and build this
That was 16. No, 17. But in 1 year in foster, 1 year in advice.
Yeah, we might try to pull it off it on here. So we can, you can run it while it's recording you. Yeah. We'll put it on here and then put it on mine. And so you can run mine so that it, what it'll do is record. If I get this all done. Yeah, go ahead and turn it on. Come on, look at this. There we go. Did it? So I made this. There we go. Yes. That's perfect. No.
Yeah,
No.
probably not.
Well, maybe they can get it on there.
Let us know. We can help. So they use start full classes, and I'm gonna start Purebred Association, but any breeding part of it.
I'm not kidding. We have 12 projects lined up.
This thing is being stupid with
Okay,
it.
and Randy's working on that, and then I'll talk a little bit about the land board.
Yeah.
Because Gwendolyn Catson, who lives in, up by Spearfish, up by Sturgis, was supposed to be here today, but she injured herself and wasn't able to attend. So, we were gonna have, she was gonna do like cooking lesson with us, with cooking with lamb, and talk about the American Lamb Board, but, since she's not here, we have an industry update. And then, yeah, I have to deal with my cooking, so. But as soon as Randy,
It's out. I just want to make sure I gotta share with my, gotta share my screen, so it's this way.
Randy is video zooming or taping our meeting today. So hopefully we can share it on our website and on our Facebook page.
Okay, it should be ready to start.
Okay.
And just push this button here to count.
Okay. So,
If you want me to, I can do that. Just tell me.
I don't know. The Nebraska Sheep and Goat Association is affiliated with the American Land Board and ASI. So when you are a member of the Nebraska Sheep and Goat, you also get a membership to ASI and the American Land Board as part of your dues. We play that every year. And so the American Land Board, they focus mostly on selling lamb and cooking. There's, you see, total industry represents 13
On board, I assume.
on the board, so, and Gwendolyn, like I said, she's not very far away from up here, and she loves Nebraska, so she's already planning on coming to next year's conference, so. Yeah, you can-
She's one of them 13, right?
Yeah.
She's the chairman.
She's the president or chairman of the American Land Board.
Also, are these representatives according to regions? Looks like those stars are pretty well spread out.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not.
Well.
No, I think it's according to group.
According
They're
to
different
group.
groups.
Yeah.
You got big producer, small producer, big feeder, small
Okay.
feeder. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
I'm probably not the one that really should be talking about this. Yeah, but, so they help all sectors. The lamb checkoff is what they mainly manage. Our ASI is mostly our wool portion of our industry. So,
So we get producers, feeders, and.
and the US or the American Land Board has no funding by importers, so that's good news. So,
Do you want, I
Go ahead.
wanted Glenn to talk.
Go ahead. Help.
go ahead.
So I'm trying to take back my memory, but, I think Gwen's point with this slide was that, our lamb checkoff dollars, American watermelons have more checkoff dollars than our American lamb does. And so, in terms of the amount of money that the American Land Board has to fund projects and promote American lamb is relatively small. The only other industries, I guess, that are below lamb is Christmas trees and popcorn. And so, to look at some of those lists, it's pretty amazing what American Land Board can do with relatively limited funding.
Right.
Backing up on the.
And goats aren't even on there.
No.
Only lamb.
This was just more on using 66% of their efforts go to promotion. And so, like, we have some American Land Board promotion stuff over on the tables, and they've done a really, really nice job of putting together really precise, I guess, inclusive promotion. And there's actually, I'm trying to remember, I think it was 2010, some Texas A&M professors came together and found that, yes, our promotion efforts are increasing American land consumption. So the fact that they're using 66% of that for promotion is benefiting our industry.
And then I think the good thing for association point is that you can call them up or order online and it's free, you know, even just to a producer. So if you know of anybody or anything, you know, 4-H groups or anything like that, that recipes or promotional items, you can get a hold of me, because right now I brought a whole tote, but I have a whole big tote, you know, and so we have lots of it, and we'd be willing to send it out to 4-H groups, you know, or help yourself, grab some. I just brought you know, and, you know, we can help get those things out in Nebraska.
In terms of land board's role, they really have, I guess, 3 portions They have the marketing and promotion side of things. They also do a really nice job of research and education. I'll talk about my master's project here in a little bit. I was actually funded by American Land Board as one of my funding sources. So extremely grateful for their research and education sector. And then of course their industry collaboration is important too, because we can't just focus on land production and not think about the other side of our industry too.
Well, except for last year, they have always, we've always applied for the tasting or the American Land Board grant. And they always have helped fund our state fair testing that we go down to the state fair and do every year. So except for last year, they didn't have that grant. So you can.
Why don't you guys go home and
This is
change?
talking about 60% of lamb consumption is imported product, and 50% of American consumers have never even tried lamb. And this was pre-COVID, prior to, restaurants shutting down, those kinds of things. But the majority of lamb eaters only consume lamb 1 to 2 times a year. And it's typically your special occasions, your Easter, Christmas.
It's less than 1 pound per capita.
Yeah, it's at about, well, boneless, it's at 0.4 pounds per capita per year.
When you they said they're going to start importing lamb. What do you see? How's that affect them?
I think it'll be really interesting. I have some later on today, talk a little bit about, I think I have it included in my talk, if not, I can add it in. But with 60% of our current supply being imported, I don't know, I think American Land Board has done such a good job of promoting American land. If we can stay on that track, we'll be okay. From my under,
Where was American Land Board when we shut down? We didn't hear a peep about them. I started calling them, all the representatives in Colorado and Nebraska, and I didn't hear a word back. And I'm sitting there from the checkout dollars, the land board, and they did squat to stop this for help.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not with land board,
I know.
obviously, but from having friends and things like that that worked at Mountain States and that kind of thing. I think the hard part with our industry is how do we compete with JBS. There were several bids put in for that plant from producers and that kind of thing. But when you're competing, a bunch of producers are competing with JBS, it's really difficult.
Who owned the water that goes in there? So you knew they own the water that you were sunk one way or the other, that you were sunk. Even if you did win the bid, JBS didn't have to give you the water.
I don't think it's like land board for a reason.
Yeah, that's way above any of our pay.
I try to keep up on this, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I heard they're going into bankruptcy, next thing I know, it's sold. And producers kind of just got left out in the cold on the thing. And then I called land board, emailed them, and they never got back a hold of me. A little annoyed with that too. I don't know.
And that's honestly, Clint, all it comes down to is, I don't care who you're throwing at JBS, they're gonna win.
That's exactly right.
They just got fined $10 million for their corruption thing,
Absolutely.
and they're gonna pay it off and just
Who's
keep
the
going.
biggest lamb importer out there? JBS. It benefited them to close that down.
So who gets that $10 million? Does that go back?
That's the Brazilian government on that.
The US did it too, so it goes to US government. Yeah, they just settled, I just read that, they just, like last week, settled a big bribery case because our laws say even if you're in another country. So I don't know, they might be selling some stuff, we'll see, I don't know, maybe they have enough money to do it. But anyway, so I think they're saying sales are Northeast, Southeast, and California, not Nebraska. So that's where you're, and again, think of your ethnic market somewhat too. And there's more ethnic land there. leg loin and shoulders atop. You know, we do have the new Planet Brush. Let's hope that that'll help. It's not a huge plant, but I don't know if they're going to buy a lot of open lambs, but it is open now. Did you see the video? That video of a tour of it, I saw that.
Pretty impressive. Like, I mean, American Lamb Processing isn't known to be state of the art by any means, but theirs is pretty impressive, and they tried to make it as automated as we can, or as they could, I guess.
It was on Market to Market, and it's on your phone from your deal that you get every week from.
Oh, yep, from ASI.
And I didn't get to watch it this morning to see what was going on because I was here.
Maybe next time later we can pull it up. It's pretty cool. They did a really nice.
Yeah,
job.
I think mine was on Facebook that I found, and I just took the tour of it. And the good thing is, new facilities are way more efficient than old, and that, at least we have one facility now. That old facility, it really was not real efficient. So that may be some blessings in the long term.
Well,
We'll just have
quite
to see.
honestly, for the numbers relying on that Greeley plant, it's horribly antiquated, you know, not state of the art, it was.
When I worked for CSU, I was in that plant, and it's, yeah, I can tell you. Yeah, it was,
So how can Central Wolverine?
I don't know.
Well, all summer they were half the time because couldn't pass the inspections because everything was broke and all that good stuff. So I was told they're going to shut down too. And I might heard that they did shut down, but
I haven't really paid much attention. I haven't heard much on them. I know that there was a little bit on it in one of the articles, and I kind of skipped over it. So,
Randy.
so
We're gonna dock your pay.
unless somebody else looked at Wolverine, I didn't.
How many lambs did Wolverine process today?
Not really, they're all kosher.
Well, they're all kosher.
Was that Wisconsin? Where that was at? Where
Wolverine
what?
is in Detroit.
Detroit. Okay.
Strauss is in Milwaukee.
Okay. Yeah, I have to say, I kind of skipped that one. So I'm glad you watched it. But anyways, this is the big issue with COVID, is what I was hearing is 40% goes to food service. Food service is shut down right now. You can add to this if you want, but it's just, and that's been a problem, which has meant that there's been more in the grocery store. So people have tried it and they have liked it especially on the East Coast. I mean, that's where I think most of it was. Okay, maybe in the next one.
Because I know if you buy lamb at a store in Alliance, Shattern, or Scott's Bluff, it is not.
No, and North Platte not American. I bought it for that one thing, and I found it was New Zealand, and it tastes like New Zealand lamb. So. Yeah, it was.
I did see, I don't remember where I saw it, but that they were good, the USDA had bought, I put it in the newsletter, they had bought a whole bunch of American lamb that was gonna go into the school, like the school food programs and stuff like that. So I thought that was encouraging.
I think Gwen might talk a little bit about that here too.
Okay.
USDA bought a whole bunch of racks.
Oh, good.
That tended to kind of be our backlog.
They've tried to help. So there's more home cooking with focus on flavor, and what you'll notice that, you know, the increase in retail lamb, people are trying lamb for, like I said, for the first time. But this is becoming a big issue. People are starting to cook at home. It's really helped. From what I've, trend is going to continue and grow. I don't think it's going to go back to the way we were as much as what we had. So that's a good thing if we can get people to eat it. That's the thing, and get them recipes. But modern housewife wants a recipe, exactly how to do it, how to cook it, how long, and everything. So.
This one was just on everything we've talked about so far.
Right.
We've even talked, I mean, some of the stuff that we were talking about just a minute ago, non-traditional market, really, and that was probably the South Dakota sheep already too, how those ethnic markets have really grown. Even at the Newell Sale Barn, they were realizing a lot more ethnic buyers there.
That's why our hair sheet do so well sometimes. Yeah.
What are the rules and regulations around that? It has to be USDA labeled. It has to be kept to a certain temperature. Certain farmers markets may or may not allow you to
So is that like if you're selling? Like if
Package.
they're, like, or whatever, yeah, not a whole.
Right, right, right. If they buy the animal, they're buying on the hook, so then it's their animal and.
You can take it to any slaughter plant.
So like you could sell, like I could advertise and say, I have 3 lambs that are going to slaughter for sale. You must pick up at Tabletop Meats on X date. Then you can do that. But if you're gonna take it to the farmer's market like Gwendolyn does,
Sell chops. And
she
this kind of
she
thing.
has to take it, she takes it to Sturgis and has it processed by a USDA inspected meat locker. They package it, they have all the info on the label, and then she can sell it at the farmer's market up in Rapid City. You know,
They own the animal, so if you sell them a half an animal or whatever it is,
right,
then it's theirs and you don't.
right. And you can, yeah, you can
Yeah.
even do it before you take it, you don't even have to make an appointment. You can say, you bought half this animal, where do you want to take it? Or you need to pick it up at this time and, or whatever.
I was supposed to plug that in.
Yeah.
After you pick it up from the USDA facility, I'm assuming there's rules on how you handle it.
Yeah, it'll be
Let's
packaged
hope
with like your farm name or whatever on it, and it'll have when it was processed, how much weight it is, and stuff. It'll be a special label, you have to keep it as a temperature for the inspection. And if you are taking it home individually, there will be a USDA meat inspector that has to come in.
I've had one go down before the battery. It's not good for me.
Is that the right temperature at all?
Yeah.
And it's usually just a thermometer, and it'll open it up and it'll no, that'd be awesome. Certify me right away. No, but if you just get in touch with USDA
Okay.
Nebraska.
You ready? There's our code. And that's why they bought some of that land, because we were down 35 to 45%. Big thing is getting grocery stores to carry it. I think that's our biggest challenge.
It's like, yeah, I don't remember. I was at the state fair and they had the soybean. This is awful, but the soybean council was making there were a soy cracker there or a cookie. And I was like, well, where do you find soybean flour? Because out west, you can't really find it. They're like, oh, it's at Hy-Vee. I was like, well, we don't have Hy-Vee out here. You know, I'm like, where can we find it out here? And they're like, oh, we have to order it online. I'm like, well, that's welcome to my life living in Western Nebraska.
And that's how we stumbled at the sheep and goat tasting deal too. People ask
Yeah.
where to get this. It's like,
That's why there's a lot of direct marketing.
Buy it from me.
So there's your increase in dollars. So I mean, we did sell more, 20% more retail. And a lot of them were first-time lamb purchasers, so that's a good thing. If we can just keep them eating it, and they can find it. That's the big thing. We do have lamb. We have the lamb now at Walmart, and I need to check. We never had it before, and see if it's American lamb. I don't know.
You know, honestly, a 20% increase in volume, that is huge year to year. That is enormous.
30% in dollars. If we can just keep that trend, and then retail comes back and add to that, then we're good.
Is that US lamb data or is that overall lamb data?
I don't.
Came from American Lamborn. I don't.
You assume it's US, but
I would assume it is American Lamb.
whether that's trackable, how trackable that is.
I think it was lamb that American Lamborn was kind of following, which obviously would have been American Lamb, but don't quote on that.
My guess is that would be just American, because you wouldn't think the American and the import together went up 20%. But American is so far behind that could easily jump 20%.
Yeah.
That would be my thought.
I don't know how much, I mean, like, a lot of importing we were importing was going on during the, like, high time during COVID. You know,
Right.
We were still importing quite a bit.
Just to,
It went down a little bit, percentage wise, but we were still importing.
so this is kind of their marketing strategy. You know, this is gonna be key, retail support.
American Landlord did a lot on social media. That's a few of the points. I like that. It was actually kind of cool. Like they were doing, I think Glenn will have more slides on this too, like glam burger challenges.
Oh,
And
yeah.
So on Instagram, you could see all these people's like fancy lamb burgers and they were making, and they would have the recipes and things like that. And they were doing a lot of like on like Facebook and Instagram like cooking competitions for lamb. It was kind of cool. And they did a lot of Facebook and Instagram live stuff going around with different people doing live videos and stuff. It was pretty cool.
And they've done a lot of those lamb jams in big metro
Yeah.
areas like Seattle and LA.
Yeah, and I think those got canceled. Most of those got canceled because of COVID. But yeah,
Right.
those have been super successful and definitely something on my bucket. For like $50, you can get a ticket, 50, 60, I think, get a ticket and get professional chefs at stations cooking lamb. And then they also have professional mixologists there that are telling you, okay, well, this dish is going to pair well with this whiskey or this wine.
So they did an Instagram training too, and I watched their Instagram training. It was pretty good. The American Landlord did. I'd never used Instagram. I just want to learn about it, so I watched it. I still don't know if I could do it.
This is another one of their newer programs. I think they're doing this Tzatziki's Mediterranean Cafe partnership. I'm not super familiar with it, but it's another marketing tool that they're taking on 90 restaurants in 17 states, really focusing on that fresh local product. It'll be, it's going on, I guess, as an 8-week
Right,
campaign. But just trying to partner with these restaurants to get some of that American.
I guess that's their CEO's talk.
They also got a bunch of land, from what I understand, into HEB, and that's been a pretty big retail
Texas, yeah.
outlet to them. Yeah, so 350 locations throughout Texas doesn't help us much, but you know, 350 more stores selling lamb is a big deal.
Well, and Texas is pretty populated, so
Right.
there's a big population there itself.
Yeah.
We'll be shipping a lot of our lambs to Texas in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
This was more on some of their social media and they've been using a lot of these food influencers. I cannot remember that lady's name in particular, but I did watch her like lamb Instagram takeover with American Landlord, and she's awesome. I actually started following her and that kind of thing. But they're taking on these big food influencers, these people that are known for their home cooking stuff and recipes and that kind of thing, and partnering with them to say, okay, I'm a professional chef or whatever, and I'm using it. Yeah, it was cool.
You know, to piggyback on that, what would be cool to see them do is do it like Tiny Woman and Rachel Ray and all of them and have them start pushing it. That would change overnight.
Yeah,
I'm all for 8 hours line for 3 hours and go to the store. And I know she's not alone, so.
Well, my wife's been there and we drove by once because it was closed. So yeah, my kids live close to it.
So I mean, you get, if they can get into those people, you know, that the guys, they typically aren't the ones who, oh, we're gonna have this for dinner, you know. They're also not the ones watching Rachel Ray and
Yeah.
Pioneer Woman.
They're not the one
They
using
need to get to the right people for the right stuff. And I think that would be huge. That's also probably a very, very long line to get in with, but.
These are all just more on their social media campaigns. The first one was the lamb challenge, just challenging anybody, really with any lamb cut. And then they had the glam burger. And so scrolling through social media and seeing these delicious looking lamb burgers definitely makes you want to be like, oh my gosh, I want to go.
I want to try it.
And then you're like, where do I get that? That's right.
Yeah, and then there's one of those like that lamb jam. that I was
Talk
talking
about
about.
it at home.
And they did those influencer dinner parties. I didn't participate in any of them, but they would bring in those bloggers and those social media chefs and those kind of things and do these whole like Zoom dinner parties. Glenn said it was really successful.
Everybody's home, so they have something to watch.
Well, and that's exactly what she said too. Like normally on a normal year, nobody would want to be like, oh yes, I want to watch somebody have a dinner party. But because we had nothing else better to do in our houses, people were watching these dinner parties. And then that was just how they took that lamb jam experience home. They did the virtual celebration if you had bought the tickets.
And then you got the coupons there.
Yeah, and they took coupons for purchasing specifically American lamb. I don't know the logistics of that, but just some more on that glam burger challenge.
Those look good.
This is a little bit on their influencer events. Yeah, I'm not familiar with them as much as
And talking about grants, but I don't think this is video. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe this is it here. Maybe it works.
This is a video. Yeah. Took it a while to load.
I can do this.
Randy's doing that. What, on the goat side, where is all the goat going to that's being processed? Is that?
I think a lot of it goes back like Pennsylvania,
That's,
like the Colby sale barn, they haul them dying cows out here and then back home, they go back east.
and they're going direct then? Is most of that going direct market then or what?
I think probably so. I mean, like most of the goats that go through that barn that I've seen are pretty much slaughter weight.
Oh, whoops.
Is there any, but is there any slaughterhouses between any around?
I think it's in like Chicago.
Thank you.
I'm a sheep rancher, not to get wealthy, that's for sure.
I can try.
It's so gosh darn rewarding. Couldn't give it up if we wanted to.
I didn't know that may take it off.
It might.
And it did.
Oh, there you go.
So let's go back. Show. I'll just go back and do it like that. Sorry. I'm not real technical. You can tell by my hair color, I couldn't grow up with the younger generation.
It's so gosh darn rewarding. Couldn't give it up if we wanted to.
The Army is the #1 domestic consumer of wool and probably will be for many years. We wanted to have a farm. We didn't know exactly where. We didn't know exactly what. And my Army career is what actually led to us choosing sheep.
When Beast and Bottle opened and we were going with this idea of a lamb house, they're serving Colorado lamb in the bistros in Paris. So why is there no restaurant here in Colorado that's focused completely on that?
The animals are what they eat, and the menu that the sheep have out here is incredible. I mean, there's wild carrots and wild onions and broadleaf plants of all kinds. That's one of the more rewarding aspects of ranching, to watch the quality of the plants that are out there improve year after year. It makes you feel real good to try to do the right thing with the landscape and the whole thing that fits together.
So every Tuesday we have a whole lamb arrive at the restaurant. And there's, even to this day, 7 years in, there's an excitement when the truck pulls up and drops off the lamb. And every single part finds its way onto our menu, whether it be cured lamb pancetta, smoked lamb bacon, braised lamb shoulders, lamb sausages, things of that nature, things that people can relate to and things that people can crave.
American lamb is good for Americans for many, many reasons. The benefit of the lamb itself, not only is it generally leaner, but it also has better mineral content. Lamb is better. Then accounting for taste, that you've gone from better to wonderful. Lamb is something that America doesn't realize it can eat every day.
I'm in the unique position that I have been able to forge a relationship with the people that grow our food. And the respect that I have for how these individuals are stewards of the land, and the fact that they have devoted their love to this animal is overwhelming. And I try to capture that passion that they have for ranching and what we do in the kitchen. We're honoring the integrity of that animal, how this animal was raised in local lands. And I think by using all those parts and presenting it to our guests, we're continuing that story of integrity from rancher to guest.
Pretty well done video, didn't you think?
Yeah, and there's each like of those individual people, they have like a full video on just each of those producers. But I've heard them a couple of times at land board meetings and things of that sort, talk about how like as a sheep industry, when people think of beef, they still associate it with a feedlot. But with sheep, it seems like when you talk about lamb, they don't necessarily know maybe that they're raised in a feedlot, but we're definitely not as closely associated to that. We're more associated with those green open pastures and that kind of thing. And I think it's an advantage we have in the sheep industry, for sure.
And you said right here, some of your education came from some of the work that they, or some of your support.
At this point, Gwen started to kind of talk about some of their ongoing or current research and that kind of going on her slides.
Okay.
This one's pretty cool. They just partnered with Michigan State to start looking at the environmental footprint that we leave as sheep producers and quantify the positive impacts of raising sheep so that we can kind of continue to tell our story, especially since a lot of people are, agriculturalists or farming the environment or whatever. We can put some quantitative numbers to those kind of anecdotes.
New Zealand just got theirs certified. So they're ahead of us on that. We need to work on that.
This is just some of their other funding opportunities through Land Board, whether that be sponsorship, donations, either via their promotion materials or otherwise, and then all their branding branded marketing equipment, or I guess resources. But you can apply for those industry resources throughout the year, which is. This is information on the next American Lamb Summit. It was an extremely beneficial experience, I thought. I don't know how many of y'all went to the one in Fort Collins, but it was pretty impressive, the amount of information you gathered from Lamb Summit. So the next one is going to be at Michigan State, the beginning part of next August.
See, and I, as a producer, felt the opposite with Lamb Summit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know, I felt the opening morning when they had the chef up there on the stage, you know, talking about, I felt like he just talked about how bad it was all the time. It's so inconsistent, bad product, you know, I have to have the same thing every time. And if I can't get that from American, I have no choice but to go elsewhere. And I'm thinking, well, New Zealand's consistently shit, so good job. Which I shouldn't say, because we buy our fair share at the grocery store, I know. But I feel like it was more of a, we need to do better, which we know, and be more consistent and all this, but there wasn't I feel like it was great for like the board member side and promotion and all that kind of stuff, but not from okay, if it's inconsistent and I feed this ration, this guy feeds this ration, which one do you want us to do? So it's more consistent, you know? They were like, what? I felt like it was after the fact. Everything was after the fact, you know, get more to here's what we want you to do. Here's what we want you to produce. And there was virtually none of that other than a little bit in the lab.
Yeah, and I guess that's the only day I really participated in. I was there at like the graduate poster session, kind of mini thing they did, and then went to the meat lab portion, mostly because that's where most of I was getting a lot of information from my master's project.
I think too, though, they had a really hard problem being able to tell you guys as Western producers, you have to raise them like a feedlot on the Eastern side. Like they didn't feel like they could do that either, because there was no common, like, well, if we all do this, it'll be this way. But it was hard for them to pinpoint something. And then they kind of used a little bit, I think they talked about, or maybe it was just at my table, like we've kind of gone, everything's Angus in the cattle industry. Oh, that's just the top notch. Is it? Like, I mean, it really isn't.
Marketing.
Like, Herefords good, Longhorn's good. I mean,
But again, consistent product, you know what you're getting. That's why.
Eliminating all your variety, all
I,
your
yep.
different flavor
I don't disagree with you, but that's why CAB sells so good, because they know what they're going to get.
Right.
That's the whole thing behind it. So, but that's why the beef industry went that way. I mean, we still get it in the beef industry about being not consistent, but I think we've got way more consistent than we used to be.
I still have a lot of problem with that. Those comments. If size is part of their inconsistent problem, I don't get that at all, because when they go in the harvest plant, slaughtered,
They put
they've
in money.
got computers that says if this carcass weighs this much and is this quality grade, it goes on that rail.
Yep.
The next one goes on, the heavier one goes on that rail. If you look at those rails hanging in there, they're just as consistent to look at. Now, that doesn't mean that if some have been fed currently, even though there's research to be able to determine mild versus more gamey flavor, currently that rail could contain
those kinds, yeah.
differences that were due to feeding. And I can understand that as inconsistent. But size, I don't accept whatsoever. I think that's just a method to drive a price down if we're not consistent. But when you look at those rails in there, there's not any differences in what they're classified.
And I think too, they were saying like the modern housewife, she can't look at the piece of meat and say, oh, it's gonna be this gamey. Like she doesn't have a flavor profile of consistency to pick from yet because she hasn't cooked it enough or we haven't taste tested enough or whatever. Because when we taste tested, were you there for the taste testing at the college? They served us 5 and we didn't know what they were, but we had to rank our favorite and lot lamb won. And Australia and New Zealand were the bottom of the barrel. But yet you may walk in there and if you don't know Australian and New Zealand tastes
Was Dr. Warren?
No, so what they did was the professor went in, I think it was to a Costco or Sam's Club, right? Something like that. Do you remember? Harry? Costco. He just picked up a package of ground lamb from each, I think they must have been labeled, is that right? From each.
Yeah, because it does have, I know at Safeway and Walmart, it does say right on there where it's from.
And then they cooked them all the same into meatball form. And then we were served kind of blind taste tests. We had Skittles to kind of wash the flavor from the last one out. But I mean, you know, people think Australia and New Zealand should be the best because isn't that what they do? You know, isn't that their bread and butter? But American won. Everybody was like, whoa, like what?
Well, and it's no different than beef.
Right.
You know, those sheep on that video eating the wild onions between all the sagebrush are gonna taste a hell of a lot different than those sheep south of town. Night and day.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what that is finishing in Australia. You know, eat all the sagebrush you can, it's time to go.
Sam's Club only sells New Zealand lamb. And I like to complain to them, but that was the local store, it's local Sam's Club, it's not the corporate.
Right. You gotta get a hold of a Walmart.
Yeah, you need to write the corporate headquarters and get them.
They're selling 20% less value, less cost.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, that lamb on the tray cut, yeah.
Yep.
Have that lamb on the taster.
Yep, and that's exactly why hair sheep don't have lanolin. They don't have any of that within the meat particles. And I
Be careful with that though.
Oh, yeah.
Research at Clay Center looked at hair sheep and wool sheep. Independent consumers couldn't find the difference. So be careful.
I sure can. Yeah,
Let's research at Clay Center.
Enough of it though.
Well
Probably more
controlled.
than-
Not an opinion.
I mean, because I've had both sides and I can tell, but could anybody, like you say, could anybody who's just picking it up, would they know? Probably not.
No, and if they got the bad one, they don't want
Then
it
they don't
again.
want it again.
And we
They're
lost
done.
it. And you get the Yeah.
I mean, that's true.
So what's next, Missy?
Lunch.
Okay.
You
So
know,
I'm gonna.
years ago, I had a restaurant for 12 and a half years. And we've got a lot of senior citizens in the program. But every Easter, I started out the first Easter, I made a leg of lamb. And over 12 and a half years, I got it up to 5 legs of lamb on Easter. There'd be people who say, oh, John, give me the ham, I don't want any lamb. Other people are, oh, gee, I've never tried it, you try it. Like I say, maybe 5 legs, but we were in a really small town. We brought in people from outside, but I thought that was pretty impressive to jump from 1 to 5.
Absolutely. And I lost my train of thought.
My story is I grew up on a beef ranch, okay? And my cousin had lamb, they raised some sheep. And so one time after church, we went out there to eat and it smelled delicious and it was lamb roast and we just loved it. And my dad's like, I can't believe you like that. But you know, that was my first experience as a kid with lamb is the roast. I thought it was awesome.
You know, and the biggest thing, and this is, I shouldn't call it a gripe at all, but like the glam burger, how fancy can we make it? That honestly, and this is just my opinion, not everybody get all riled up. The regular American housewife that's cooking dinner doesn't want to have to make a glam burger. She wants to just cook it. I get asked that more than anything
all the time. Well, how do you cook it?
We
Cook
need,
it like beef. Don't do that mint jelly and all this crap and destroy it. Yeah, season it like you would any beef and cook it. And that's what we're having today. It's actually Baldridge Ranch's seasoning that I cook on lamb all the time. And people that wanted nothing to do with it but tried it, love it, because it's just simple meat. It's a delicious meat. You don't have to get carried away with all this stuff.
That was one of the comments we got at the tasting is, if I was to guess, I'd guess that would be.
Right.
yeah.
I'll give you my little thing on my last lamb promotion when my son Brian graduated. He wanted to do something different, so we cooked. Okay, they were 200-pound Columbia buck. Took me that long to give in. And we served, I don't know, a couple hundred people. The meat was totally gone when we got done. It wasn't done real hard. I got the formula, something my sister come up with, basically oven roasted and grilled them a little bit. But I did have 2 people tell me it's the best beef they'd ever eaten. So I don't know if that was a compliment or they didn't know what they had, but I think there was a lot of people came to that party just to try one. Because I told everybody I was serving them lamb.
We did the same thing, but with goat. My son's last 4-H with her, we kept,
For senior
and for
party.
his graduation party, he didn't want beef, which we worked for a rancher. He wanted one goat. And he didn't want to tell anybody, and we didn't. And everybody's like, oh, that's really good roast beef. We just roasted it, pulled it apart like roast beef.
I had some.
Just had some barbecue sauce. And
It
they're
was
like,
good.
oh, that's so good. I'm gonna take some of that roast beef home. I'm like, well, it's not.
Yeah, just half the battle is getting it in front of them, making it and eating it.
Well, the good thing about like the Glenburger is it promotes, it gets the name out there.
Right,
It's
yeah,
people
right.
to try it. Who cares if they cook it with salt and pepper later on at home? You know, I mean, if it gets the name out there, I mean, it's all about visibility and recognition.
Right.
Are we ready to eat? Do we need to have them come through, or how are you gonna do that?
If you wanna come
I'm gonna
through.
pause this.
Good test. Those are predominantly just meat.
This should work. Zoom slide.
It's actually kind of simple one.
Let's see if this goes good.
That's for you.
There it is. There it is. Now, I have a changer for you. Since I finally got that figured out.
I'm spying because I'm next. I'm going, how am I gonna set this up?
Do you wanna say first the desktop now?
No, actually, if I
Do you
can
have a
just,
PowerPoint?
yeah, if I can actually have Google Slides, so if I can just hop on your HDMI cable. I'm good.
Okay, okay. The only thing is it won't, I can videotape you. It won't do it. through
Oh, the Zoom.
That's why.
That's Actually, I should just, still be- I should still be able to, I was gonna say,
Can
I
you pull
should.
up Google
Yeah.
online?
Yep.
Okay.
That's why I
Well,
did it that way.
So if you're next, mine is hers now.
I'm Jayla.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Okay, now.
And you took Dave Oliver's part? Okay.
Yeah.
Met his wife last year at the Wool Class.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna go do that this fall. I'm excited.
Is it good?
Yeah, I did.
Enjoyed it.
You probably met Jimmy Chad Page while you were up there. He was a PhD.
One thing before we get started
So I
again,
am
we
like
are
kind
going
of,
raffle
it was
tickets
picking
for
up,
the
we didn't end
of
up,
this
and they ended up having.
for a premier,
Yeah, I
plan.
remember.
So if you want to buy a raffle ticket, they're $1.
I think so.
And then,
So if you want to get on, so you want to get on your
don't have a
Google
single
slideshow?
ticket
Yeah.
for the
I'll have-
door prizes, we'll offer door prizes.
We get, let me pull this up, and then you said, do you want to go Google?
Yep.
See if I can remember my Google search. Okay, they are. Cool. I'll let you get. If it works, if you don't mind doing it that way, that's.
That's how I'm gonna do it on mine.
And then once we get them up, I'll probably have to share that screen with you.
Connie, can I bring some of those? Because it's like sitting in my
Because right
office.
now it's got this stuff.
Come around the side of you.
This is all.
I think.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of it, like, I don't know. I don't go through a lot of them. I think I'm still outdated, but the most part is pretty cool. Yeah, those Limber books are definitely on there.
There's some really good ones. I've
And the curriculum.
took some from my wife. She teaches family consumer science. She goes, does the lamb board ever give lamb out for me to demonstrate? I said, well, they might.
Mine.
You know, you can take food recipes. Stuff on Instagram. There's a site on Instagram. A friend of mine told
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Is it gonna work? Or do you need yours? Good. Yeah, it's Madeline has some really good spice in her. I really like her spice. She's got some really good spice. Okay, now what I need is I need to share.
You can do whatever. I'm not in no hurry to let your room go.
Oh, Jay, for me.
Have it rolled up and then that way.
You got Jay.
John Wong.
Oh.
Kat, you brought all this, right?
Okay. I'm gonna put you on.
Yeah.
Can you check with the girls, see if they introduce you or?
Yeah.
And somebody sent it.
Yeah, we're standing there talking about. Right, there's lots of, I thought I used to go, so. That always helps. So do you introduce her? Is Connie gonna Okay.
And I've got it, it's on and it's recording. So we're good.
My little sister wanted to get into it, and we just never, we had somebody give us a spinning wheel, and we've never done anything with it yet. So,
I'm not sure in Chagrin.
yeah,
Fairly close to your rapid, right?
yeah.
Famous for the steakhouse.
All right, we're gonna get started. Back up.
No, thanks.
I'd like to introduce our next speaker, which is Jaylyn
I'm not even gonna try.
That's okay, Quintana.
South Dakota. She's just, the sheep specialist that they just, hired, so David is all yours.
Cool, thank you, Connie. Yeah, so I had to make things hard and get married 2 weeks before I started my position, so. Connie asked for me to speak a little bit today on kind of my master's project and my work there. But I was gonna give you all just a little bit of background on myself. I've given a few people some of this background already. But I grew up in Northwest Colorado, about 45 miles south of Steamboat Springs in Yampa. So we're raising primarily Suffolk Hampshire ewes at about 8,300 feet in elevation. But we started our flock, my grandmother started it as a club lamb flock 30-ish years ago. But within here, the last 10 to 15 years, we've really gotten to where our direct to consumer has kind of been more of our focus. We still sell club lambs, and my little sister's still showing that kind of thing. But there was a local nonprofit that started promoting local product and having an online marketplace. And so we started selling our lambs through there, especially because we all know that not all lambs are destined to be show lambs. So that's been really advantageous to us. I was really involved in 4-H and FFA growing up as well, and was actually a state officer in Colorado for both of those organizations. But with FFA, I had to take a full year off of school. And in terms of my education, I went from high school and went to Laramie County Community College in Cheyenne on a livestock judging scholarship, which was kind of interesting because I'd never livestock judged in my life and I haven't done it since. But really good learning experience for me, got to see some pretty cool country. And then it was between my 2 years at LCCC that I took my year off to be a state officer. And then a series of events, I guess, led me to the University of Wyoming. And that's where I got my bachelor's in animal science. And got really interested in a grad program when I worked as a research assistant. I worked on a rumen microbiome project in cattle and also worked on a US sheep experiment station sire evaluation study. And thought maybe I wanted to go to grad school, but wasn't real sure about it. But then I met Dr. Whit Stewart, and I think a few people have heard of him in here and mentioned him to me. And he's the one that really convinced me that I needed to go to grad school. And so he gave me this PhD-sized master's project, trying to get at what overfat lambs or how overfat lambs affect our processor. And so it was kind of technically like a 2.5-part study. One part was an industry audit. The other part was more of an economics project. And we actually were able to, the 0.5 part of that was to look at just observationally some inefficiencies as well. And then it's really my experiences with WIT that opened my eyes to the commercial side of our industry and really put my value of that. And he also threw me in totally feet to the fire with the Albany County 4-H wool judging team. I coached them for 3 years, and they definitely taught me more my first year than I taught them, I think. But this last January, we went and competed at National Western and ended up being the National Western champion team. So really started to develop my passion for the wool side of our industry as well. So just to kind of give you a backstory, yes, I started as a club lamb kid, but really my experiences in grad school helped me really see the value of every sector of our industry, regardless if you're of what type of sheep you're raising, I guess. And so to get more into my master's project, for about a year from May 2018 to May 2019, we surveyed over 10,000 carcasses in the Mountain States and Superior plants in Colorado. We then looked at those lamb carcasses according to season, since kind of anecdotally, we've heard that lambs in the summer months tend to be fatter and heavier. And so we went ahead and separated our data that way. And what was really neat is that we had to find a way, because if you've ever counted dots on a ribeye grid, it takes forever. And so in order to capture this carcass data without slowing down the plant and that kind of thing, we actually were able to take these digital images of the carcasses and then bring it back to the school and run computer software on it to get all of our carcass measurements, which was still super time consuming, but definitely much better than counting ribeye dots. In terms of our economic analysis, I gathered data from both USDA sources in terms of pricing, and then some of the plant data as well. They sent me a little bit of their cost data by season. And what we did was a partial budget compares your relative profitability of making a change in an operation. And so it's really useful for all sorts of things. If you're trying to decide, do I direct market or do I take them to the sale barn? A partial budget can help you see your relative profitability of making that change. And so that's what we did in terms of the plant processing a yield grade 2 70-pound carcass, which is kind of that middle of the range. If you talk to some of the big commercial processors, their target carcass range is between 65 and 85 pounds. And so kind of that middle ground there at 70 pounds, and then a yield grade 4 100-pound lamb carcass being our large fat carcass. And then just due to some plant malfunctions and other natural things that happened, I learned very quickly the value of having an actually controlled research project, because there was zero control here. But it actually opened up some opportunities. So we got to look at malfunction and inefficiencies on both the harvest and the fabrication floor, because both plants had kind of indicated to us that those big lambs sometimes cause some problems on the harvest side of things as well. And this all kind of came about because we know that our consumers don't want an over-fat product. And in terms of actual industry research, that's certainly not something that's new to our industry. Even, I guess, worldwide. In 1954, this Smith, Pilling, and Barton study was conducted in Australia. And 60 plus years ago, they were saying, okay, this trim has very little value to the processor, and our consumers don't want an excessively fat product. And so that's basically what all of these studies find over the course of these 60 years. And then in 2014, the American Lamb Industry released their industry roadmap. And that roadmap report talked about, just like we've been talking about today, how there's some troubles with inconsistency. And one of those is specifically the fat cover on our lambs. And so this was part of kind of what sparked the interest in this study. On top of that, when we look at this graph shows the number of lambs born in the US in each month in the brown bars, and the number of lambs harvested each month in the yellow bars. And so what you can see is that 85% of lambs are born in the first 5 months of the year, while that harvest demand is remaining relatively constant, regardless of the time of year. And so in those summer months, the feedlots are having to hold those lambs over either from the previous year or earlier in that year, hold them over to meet those harvest demands. And so we all know that if we're holding lambs over on a feedlot diet, they're gonna put on additional fat. And so that's what kind of where that term fat lamb season that gets thrown around in our industry kind of came from. And so I just wanted to give a quick, we've talked yield grades a little bit, but I'm definitely a visual learner. And so I'll talk yield grades a little bit later on, but just some snapshot pictures of kind of what those yield grades look like from a carcass perspective. As you increase your yield grade, obviously the purpose of our USDA yield grading is to say, as you increase, you're also increasing your yield. But you're also typically increasing your fat deposition as you increase in your yield grades. And so that's pretty evident. These are all pictures from my study as well. And we also did a calculated yield grade.